Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for sparing time to attend the first ever Uganda National Book Review Conference. I really appreciate you could have been doing something else, but you decided to register and now you're here attending this conference. I'm so happy to see you here. My name is Timothy Mununuzi Kisakye, and I'm the creator of Bookmeal1 Blog. It reviews books, and yeah, that's what you can know about me, at least for now. As we get along, we can know each other more. So if you're someone who wants to promote literary engagement through embracing the appreciation and critical analysis of literature in Uganda, this is a conference for you. So just buckle up, you're in the right place. Don't think twice or otherwise, you're in the right place. If you're someone who also wants to enhance your professional reading and writing skills, this conference is for you. So you did not make a mistake by registering or tuning in. Lastly, if you're someone who wants to bridge local and global literary practices by fostering collaboration between Ugandan critics and the international literary community, this conference is for you. Then, if you're also just someone who is just enthusiastic about personal self-development and generally books, reading, and writing, this is something that will be worth it for you. So what's the purpose of this conference? One, the purpose is to reignite the spark of reading comprehension. You would ask yourself, why are we reigniting the spark of reading comprehension? We live in an age where there's a lot of intellectual laziness. People value speed over accuracy. And if you have to look in our society, this is characterized by indiscriminate skimming and scanning of all information. Even that kind of information that calls for deep engagement, people just skim and scan. And sadly, this has become the default mode of reading. Whether someone is reading something that's complex, they just skim and scan. Then, as more to this aspect of intellectual laziness is the element of us being exposed to diverse ideas, but we grasp very little of these ideas. And this leads us to have fragmented thinking. And in the long run, our concentration is broken down because we focus on one thing and you think you're doing yourself a good favor, but over the long run, it's just fragmenting your thinking. And surprisingly, I don't know if you've noticed this, but these days people share links even without reading the information in those links. Like someone just shares a link to you via WhatsApp, but they have not even read what is in that link. Yeah. So this is very absurd and it's very surprising. Then another aspect why we need to regulate the spark of reading comprehension is we need to promote higher order learning. This conference is to advocate for people to transcend from remembering, understanding, and application of knowledge to another level, which comprises of analyzing, evaluation, and creation of knowledge. This is the topmost level when it comes to the hierarchy of learning. So when someone transcends remembering, understanding, and reach this level, ideally they have reached the peak. And these are people that these are people that can create things that add value to society. And more to this, they can decipher between what is true and what is not true. Then the third element under this point of igniting the spark of reading comprehension is this conference aims to fight anti-intellectualism. And how does it do this? It does this by building critical thinking and encourage informed decisions. Because when you teach people how to write, how to review books, how to effectively read books, automatically you are building their critical thinking skills and you're encouraging them to make informed decisions. And in a way, you help them undermine intellectual narratives that thrive on oversimplification and emotional manipulation. Because when people read things without trying to understand the context that lies behind them, they miss the meaning and it is just shallow. You really, for example, when someone picks a Bible verse and they did not read what came before and what came after it, and they just pick that one line, you can easily get misled because context speaks a lot to meaning, as we shall see later on. The fourth element under this point of igniting the spark of reading comprehension is fostering intellectual curiosity. Yeah, we all know that when you understand why you're doing something, you turn out to start liking it and you fall in love. It becomes something that is effortless. So it's something we want to apply here. If people get to love deep reading, they'll automatically be pushed to read deeper material like books, essays, instead of just reading short things on phones or WhatsApp. Yeah, so it will help us to foster foster deeper intellectualism or deeper intellectual curiosity among its people. Then the fifth element under this point of reigniting the spark for cooperation is this conference aims to empower participation in society because if people are reading deep information deeply and they understanding the context, they will be able to decipher policy papers, they'll be able to understand laws, why laws are being passed, and be able to contribute to protect this law, to critique these laws, because they are the part of their brain that is associated or that is responsible for analyzing things deeply is being exercised. So they can easily apply these same skills to the policy papers, the laws that are being passed by politicians, and they can easily critique these people. But if someone is just doing shallow reading and scheming, there is no way you can really be of help to our society when it comes to comforting these policy papers or laws. It's why many of our people in society just vote for things they feel are good for them. Who term intellectuals as gods or angels, like they put them in the skies just because they don't understand what they do. But the thing is, this conference wants to make sure that intellectuals are viewed as fellow thinkers, not as elites. Because if we can have at least 80%, or even if 50, for the case of our context here in Uganda or Africa, that are able to think at this level, intellectuals will be looked at as fellow thinkers, because it will not be something new, it will be something ordinary. Because if someone realizes that he or she can as well be an intellectual, as long as they are aware of what they need to do to become intellectual, it becomes ordinary. So you don't look at intellectuals as gods or semi-gods. Then the second purpose of this conference is to, excuse me, the second purpose of this conference is to cultivate intellectual integrity in a noisy world. We live in an age whereby there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of noise. So the conference aims to help participants recognize and resist the intellectual temptations of our age. You may ask yourself, what are these intellectual temptations? One, there is a temptation of quick knowledge over deep understanding. We confuse access to information with actual understanding. And I term this as a Google brain. Just because you access information, an article, a tweet, it does not mean that you really understand. There's a difference between access and information. So the aim is to stop looking at skimming, summarizing, or outsourcing our thinking to AI as understanding. So we want to promote people, we want to encourage people to wrestle with ideas rather than just skimming, summarizing, and outsourcing your thinking to AI, chat GPT models. Then the second temptation of our age is to do with hot takes over nuance. We are driven by social media's fast pace. So because things are moving very fast here and there, people feel pressure to react before they reflect. For example, I might send you something via email or via Twitter, and you feel pressure to respond immediately. But it does no harm for you to spend 2 days or three to think about the information, digest it, and get back to me. So this is the temptation we're suffering this age, and complexity is avoided in favor of simple things, bold, simplified opinions. So if we can change this, it will be a very big success for this conference. The third temptation is groupthink over independent thought. Of course, you know that when someone is rapidly digesting shallow information or not exercising deep reading, they won't be independent thinkers, because there's no way you can embrace critical thinking skills if you're not doing deep reading. So you are more prone to align with ideological tribes which suppress doubt or alternative views to stay in. In Uganda, you've heard of people joining groups or ideological organizations or even cultural organizations, but they do not know why they are joining. Why am I joining Bachiga Nation yet I do not know what the agenda is? Yeah. So we want people to question, we want people to start questioning. Let them be intentional in whatever they do. The next temptation of our age is virtue signaling. we are more concerned with appearing good or smart than being good or wise. And this is shallow. It's why you see people appreciate those that flaunt their English well. For example, you've heard of Mukasambi Day, people are using funny diction all over social media just to impress. And we want to change the narrative, we want to change the attitude or the mindset towards this. Intellectualism is not all about just good English. You have to go beyond that. It, English is just a mode of communication. Then the next temptation of our age is novelty over timelessness. So all these points lie under under the second point, which is to do with cultivating intellectual integrity in a noisy age. These are so far two purposes. I don't want you to get lost. So these are just subheadings under the second point of cultivating intellectual integrity in a noisy age. So I was talking about the temptation of novelty over timelessness. Are you there? Okay. Yeah, the thing is, this has also happened to me. We tend to get infatuated with the latest idea or the whole trend while ignoring old truths and classic wisdom. It's why when you meet people who are starting to read, who are starting their reading journey, they tend to get swept up by the books that are being talked about. For example, on Goodreads, on Twitter. Um, okay, those those books that are trending, and they ignore the books that have stood for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's as if ideas get old. Yeah, like only new books are important. But the thing is that old books and ancient thinkers are dismissed as relevant, which is not the case. So the aim of this conference is reverse. Yeah, I'm back. So sorry about that. So the second temptation, um, not the second, but the next one I want to talk about is temptation of cynicism over hopeful curiosity. Now, smartness is often equated with skepticism or sarcasm. So you'd ask yourself, is it right or wrong? It's easier to mock than to build, or to doubt than to seek. And I experienced this personally. There's a time when my brother told me of a job, and without even knowing about the job opportunity, I just rushed to pick it off. And later on, and think about it, realize that had I been open to it, like to ask what the job is about, like to know more about it, you never know. I could have learned something about the opportunity that could be applied elsewhere. Yeah. So it's all to do with openness, and it is openness that leads to discovery. The next temptation of our age is metrics. We measure everything: followers, likes, productivity, grades, and this can lead to intellectual shallowness, where only what is measurable is valued. For example, you heard of people set New Year resolutions to read 50 to 100 books. Last year, an individual called, I think it's Yo Makalu, was hailed for reading 150 books. The previous year, she had actually read 122 books. She even got an award for that. She did both written and video reviews for those books, which is really fascinating. But let's be honest, this cannot be practiced majority of the people. So the aim of this conference is to fight these temptations, not to fight, but to help us understand that they exist and find ways of standardized book reviewing templates and other writing tools that I would like to share with people. Knowledge that's not shared is really not important. Why would I keep knowledge to myself? You learn how to write compelling, insightful reviews. You will learn key elements that every good review should have, at least by the time you finish this conference. You learn about the common pitfalls to avoid when reviewing books. And at the start, when I was starting this kind of book review, I made so many mistakes, but I think it was good because we all learn from failure. Then you learn how to analyze themes, writing style, and the structure of whatever my reading journey, like when I started taking reading seriously, the aim was to finish, yeah. But as I went along, I realized that finishing without understanding does not make a lot of sense because what's the point? Yeah, you finish and tell people I've read 50 books just to impress them. Okay, they will say you are a quick reader, but that is not really substantial. Yeah, because if you're on the journey of self-improvement, you want to make sure that whatever is improving is something that is of value. So the question is, do you value impressing others or you value genuine growth as an individual? Yeah. Are you adding some wisdom to your life? Are you adding some knowledge to your life? And how is the knowledge and wisdom that you're adding to yourself reflecting in your life as an individual? Whether it's to do with skills at a job or relating with people, whatever way. Yeah. Next slide. So you'll also walk away with a skill of learning how to read more books with better retention. I do not believe in quick reading, but at the end of this course, realize that there are strategies of quickening the reading process, while at the same time retaining whatever you're reading. You'll understand the connection that's between reading and critical thinking. You'll also know why your voice as a reader and all book reviewer matters, such that you don't think that it's a wastage of time, even when you're alone. You'll also learn how to turn your love for books into influence. How do you become influential? Yeah, because we as readers, we are lonely people, actually lonely by choice. Yeah, because when you're reading, you are alone with a book, and you are only being spoken to by authors who surprisingly are dead people so many years ago. But this is intentional loneliness. So sometimes it can get overwhelming, but there is something much more bigger in that when you understand that despite the fact that you spend lots of time reading alone, you can grow an influence of like-minded people whereby you share ideas with them written or via video or audio. And this helps you to understand that you still have a sense of community. You're not just left to encounter or spend lots of time with dead authors and books generally. And you can also make some money from books if you know how to do it. So by the end of this conference, you'll know how to do this. And by the end of this conference, I hope that It will renew your passion and purpose for reading deeply. Next slide. The agenda of this conference, we shall talk about the theme of the conference, the power of book reviews, how to read books effectively. Then we shall look at how do you move from reading to writing book reviews. We shall discuss common pitfalls to avoid while reviewing books. Then I will showcase reviews that I've done to you and you look at them. Then we shall have an interactive segment whereby I will share free reading and writing tools. Then I'll also take you through, you will see my timeline, like what's coming next after this book review conference. Then I'll talk about what I would want you people to do after this conference, the call to action. Shall have a question and answer session. Yeah, and we shall call it a wrap. Okay, the theme of this conference is the written word is immortal. I know many of you have not met this phrase anyway, but I made this phrase in a book that is not yet published, but one of my favorite Ugandan authors is writing this book. So he gave me a draft to read through to see how it is and maybe make a few comments. Actually, this is one of the privileges you get when you get close to your favorite readers, in that you get an opportunity of getting information early before the public. Yeah, it's a privilege because if you don't have that relationship with those authors, there's no way they will get to know you and share everything. Like you could contribute to the shaping of their future books. Yeah, and along the way you learn some things from them, how they do things, and you can apply these same things to your literary journey, writing or reading, whatever. So he shared this draft with me, and when I read it, I landed on this phrase: the written word is immortal. So it's not something that I came up with myself. So I wanted to reference it because I don't want to be a plagiarist. Yeah. So, but it's a very powerful phrase. And when you think about this literally, people and physical monuments die and decay. And even writings, when you think about them, they will not endure if they were not written down. Yeah. For example, I would love to know about my grandfather's life, how he spent his days, what was his favorite food, how he used to respond to stress. I know those small things, but no one can tell me all those things. Yeah. People just tell me vague things. He was a tall man, he was jolly. But if I want to get the details, they're not there. Yeah. Because no one wrote about him. Himself, he didn't write about himself. You may not blame him because he did go to school, yeah, but he didn't write up. So I can't know those details about my grandfather. So it is writing that allows authors to speak to future generations. Had he wrote something down, even if I did see him, I would speak to him through a book that he wrote. Yeah. So we read ideas from dead people. And this is like magic. Just imagine someone dies 100 years ago, but when you read the book, you're speaking to him like just like yesterday. Yeah. So oral fragility is overcome by the secret of making the word immortal. When you write something down, it becomes immortal. Yeah. Like someone 50, 500 years from now can get that piece of writing and understand what you are trying to mean. That is powerful. It is through writing that one's thoughts and ideas can transcend time. For example, the Bible. The Bible was written so many years ago, but people up today read it. They relate to Moses, they relate to Jesus' story, they relate to Zachariah, they relate to Nebuchadnezzar. Like, these are things that happened so many years ago, but they have power and influence over our lives even up to today. Yeah. So if you want power, write something down. You'll be remembered for a very, very, very long time. However, write something that will add value to people that will come after you. Now, let's talk about why is it important to write book reviews? The power of book reviews. An example of a book review that has changed my perspective is a book review that I read in Gesto Journal by a gentleman called John Sexton. So this is a man who was reviewing Sapiens by Yuval Noah. And you see, when you see everyone hailing a book on social media, on big media houses, yeah, and then you see an individual coming and it's like, nope, despite the fact that the whole public is hailing this book, I think this book is bullshit or it does not make sense. To me, even if this person's ideas are not that strong, I would really appreciate the strength, the boldness one gathers to say, this is not really a nice book, despite the fact that 99% of the world is hearing the book. Yeah. But you'd ask yourself, what is compelling this person to do such a thing? Yeah. It's critical thinking. Critical thinking is the only thing that will make you say no when 99% of people are saying yes. There are also essential drivers in the book world. For example, a book that is reviewed so many times, it tends to get so many sales, yeah, because people are now aware of what the book is about. If the book is bad and someone reviews it, of course, it won't really sell that much because people are aware of how bad it is. So it also helps readers to sort between the good and bad things. Then book reviews also help champion new readers and writers because then if I'm a new reader and a prominent book reviewer reviews, no, if I'm a new writer, a new book writer, and a prominent book reviewer reviews my book, definitely thousands and millions of people are going to learn about my book and they'll come and check it out. If it's a good book, hopefully many people start reading the book. So with book reviewers, we're also social influencers. Why? Because the books that we review are a reflection of societal issues. Yeah? So we are important stakeholders in society because we are disseminators of information. Yeah. So we play a big role in disseminating information in that we encourage people to read certain books. So we are social influencers. So if you want to be a social influencer, don't just feel like you only have to have a six pack or you only have to be a great streamer, great dancer on TikTok. You can be a social influencer by reviewing books. And this is a much, much, much more, I would say on my part, a valuable role of being a social influencer. Then book reviewing improves one's reading and writing skills and also speaking skills. Yeah, when I compare myself to the time when I started reading, reviewing, and writing book reviews, I'm a much, much better person than then. Yeah, like the things I've learned, paying attention to detail, being patient, trying to extract meaning beyond the sentences that I read. Like I've really changed, yeah. So it has improved my reading, writing, and thinking skills. And another point to do with power book reviews, they promote creation of great writers. Now, when you start reviewing books, realize that people that write these books are not really different from you. And when you're reviewing the books, you can see a skeleton of how particular books are made. Now, you start thinking, I think I can also create my book, yeah, about whatever idea, because you realize that these things are not made by God. Like you just have to sit down 6 months, 4 months, or 1 year and put something down. Yeah. It does not become something that is strange. Okay. The next point under the aspect of power book reviews is that book reviews enable one to cultivate a valuable digital presence. Yeah, so many of us spend lots of time on social media posting memes and what and all these things. They're not bad, but we have to realize that your digital presence matters a lot. Like, what do people know about you? What's the first impression people know about you? Yeah. So if someone knows that you're someone who posts book reviews, someone can start thinking that someone can start thinking of you as someone who is idea oriented, someone who is creative, someone who can come up with brilliant ideas, someone who's resource, someone who's an intellectual, someone who's knowledgeable. People want to be associated with people that talk sense, yeah, people that have wisdom, people that can add value to someone. And so if you're someone who reviews books, this can make your digital presence very valuable. It can get you opportunities, speaking engagements, jobs. Your influence becomes very valuable. Then book reviews can also promote networking of literary enthusiasts with book reviewers and authors, because like attracts like. Yeah. For example, ever since I started posting my reviews on my blog and posting things about books and ideas, networking, like when someone reads your stuff, yeah, they want to get associated with you and see how you can collaborate together. Then book reviews provide valuable feedback to authors. And yeah, like for me, the reviews that I've made, authors have reached out to me and they're like, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Like you pointed out different things. Maybe the next edition will have the mistakes I had pointed out corrected. So it is good feedback for authors. Book reviews also play a role in helping readers if the book is for them. Yeah. If I read the book review, I can easily say that no, this book is not mine, and I ditch it. And if it's a good book, I'll be like, okay, I think I can spend a couple of weeks to read this book. It wouldn't be a waste of my time. Then the last point under this subject of power book reviews point out other aspects that the marketing blurb might not have. Because a book review goes deeper, you get deeper insights about the book, and this will influence your decision-making process on whether to buy that book or to read that book. Yeah. So if you're only relying on blurbs, there are those nuances that you miss, which are very, very, very key. Okay, how can we read books effectively? Now, this is a very, 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 very important element. And as I was creating this PowerPoint presentation for this conference, I really thought that we really need to hint on this aspect. Now, before reading, you're supposed to have certain things in your mind. And there's a book I read, I think 5, 6 years ago, called How to Read a Book by Adler Motima. And it taught me a lot. Before reading, for example, I'm going to give you points that you have to consider. You have to have these in your mind before you read any book. One, aspire to be well read and not widely read. Yeah. It does not make sense for me to read so many books but understand little. In my case, I think it's very, very, very important for someone who reads one book, but they understand that book very well, than someone who reads 7 books and they understand only 5%. Yeah, it's like we need to redefine our goals. Then, before reading, it's important to know that you need to read different things at different speeds depending on the complexity. We've all heard of speed reading techniques and but the most important thing is for you to understand what you're reading. Yeah. So in a book, there are passages that require you to read very fast. There are passages that require you to slow down and digest the information. Yeah. So this is something that you learn, but before you need to know that it's going to happen. Because if you're not aware of it, you just read very fast or very slow. There are certain parts that need to be read very fast, and there are certain parts that need to be read slowly. Then before you're reading, you need to know that while selecting the books to read, it is your concerns that are primary to be considered and not the books you read. Yeah. Just because everyone says reading is important doesn't mean that any book that comes your way you have to read. No. You have to have agency. You have to decide and say, okay, reading is good, but what do I want to read? Okay. I want to read about how to improve my communication skills. I want to read about about plants because I want to learn more about the scientific aspect. Like, have the questions in your head and seek out the books that have the information to answer the questions in your head. That's very, very, very key because it makes reading much more meaningful. You grapple with ideas that interest you. It's really a wastage of time on earth to grapple with ideas that don't make sense and meaning to you. Very, 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 for me, it's a big waste of time. We have books that have been published this year, last year, maybe from 2020 to this year. Then we have books that have been published 50, 100 years, yeah, ago. Yeah, so me, I believe to understand something, you need to understand the foundations first, yeah, like the building blocks. For example, if I'm reading about the African civilization, I don't start by reading books that were published recently. I try to look at books that were published long ago. Then I also read the books that were published recently about the same topic and compare. Yeah. For me, I feel that's the best way to put a coherent train of thoughts about different ideas. Then before reading, you need to understand that there's a difference between knowledge and personal opinion. There are books out there that just give personal opinion. Yeah. Maybe you'd want to define what knowledge is. Yeah. You'd want to define what knowledge is. So personal opinion, these are people that, okay, they don't think deeply about issues. Knowledge, I don't know how to say, but knowledge is subtle. When you read a book, your consciousness will tell you, you know what, this is something that has through the text of time. Like, you can know. For example, when I read something about, when they say, when I read a book and the first line on a particular page is, let me say, water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen atoms, or hydrogen and oxygen. Like, when you read this thing, this is not a personal opinion. Automatically, your conscious will tell you that this is knowledge. This is something that has been around for some time, and maybe you want to prove, like, to dig a little bit deeper and ask yourself, who came up with oxygen? Who came up with hydrogen? Who named it? Yeah. But personal opinions are easy to identify. Yeah. Okay, I will not bring out clear, but I hope you get the point. Hope you get the point. So before reading, let's try as much as possible to avoid self-help books. as they have the same message from different authors. And while studying topics, let us try to read many books related to the same topic, because you can't just get one voice. Yeah, you need to compare what is so and so saying about a particular topic. Yeah, it helps you to understand the topic more from different angles. Then before reading, you need to understand that for difficult books like philosophy, it's better you read through without stopping. Then have a second read to understand, because these are complex books. Yeah, if you have to stop all the time, it may take you forever to finish that book. Then as you start to read, there are 6 elements you need to consider. One, do inspection for reading. And it could be a list of books or one book, but doing inspection reading protects you from buying books that do not have interests at heart, or even reading a book and in the middle of the book you realize that I shouldn't have read this book. Yeah. So it's about getting the most out of the book in a limited time. The goal is to understand the book structure, the main argument, and whether it's worth a deeper read. When you do inspection reading, there are 2 types. There is systematic skimming, and I'm trying to forget. Okay, there is systematic skimming, and this one involves you read the title, the subtitle, table of contents, preface, introduction, conclusion. Because you can also skim through the headings, subheadings, and read a few paragraphs just to understand what the book is all about. Or philosophy books. So here you read the book from the beginning to the end without stopping. But as you're reading, you look for the difficult parts. So the aim is to focus on general understanding and not mastery. Yeah. So you have to decide. You take the first option or the second option. Yeah. So the next element to consider while starting to read, you need to understand history. You need to understand history. Excuse me. Someone is here. Okay, yeah. The second point, the second point when you're starting to read, you need to understand that you need to read more than one account for particular topics. I think I talked about this. Then, yeah, I remember. The next element is to do with individual study versus group study. Okay, we all know that people have book clubs and what, but I feel the best way to understand things is to do individual study. Group study can come in, but it can't be the backbone. It can just be like a spice. Yeah. Like you attend a book club once or twice in 2 months. Yeah. Individual study is something that helps you to grapple with ideas as an individual. Yeah. Okay. So when you're starting to read, those are some of the points. Maybe I could add that you classify the books before you read, whether it's a philosophical book, non-fiction book, it's a novel. It helps you as you're reading to know the make of the book. Then we know that books have chapters, but it's not automatic that you have to read the book according to how the chapters were written. You can try to read the book by shuffling the chapters. Maybe you start from chapter 9, then come chapter 1, then come to chapter 4, like that. Like there's, as long as that order makes sense to you, it should be really fine. Okay. How do you read books effectively during the reading process? During the reading process, you need to consider what the book is about and what is being said in detail. So you have to be very keen. You have to slow down, understand whatever sentence that you are reading, because information is better understood if you focus on the lines. Yeah. So you need to know, is the book true? Are they saying things that are sensible, or it is just fiction? Yeah. Does it make sense? Consider what's the significance of the reading. It's not the significance of the writing is. Then you need to identify interstitial information that should be read quickly, like I talked about this. There are things that can be read very fast and things that can be read very, very, very slowly. Then as regards reading during the reading process, you need to know that there are parts in the book that have basic arguments. Yeah. For example, we all know that books have theses, yeah, or thesis. So if you can be able to locate that, the part that has that thesis, it would really be nice, because when you're reading a book, you need to know what the main argument was in that book. Then, as regards increasing speed of reading, I realized that though it shouldn't be the main focus, you can use your finger or your hand to increase the speed of reading by just moving your finger like on the words as you read in the book. Yeah. So you can also learn about note-taking strategies in your learning. Okay, after reading, how do you go about this effectively? One, always use language to express what you think about a book. You can use a blog, a video, or discussion with friends. So many people just read books and they throw them there, but you need to evaluate, you need to use language. Yeah. This increases your learning and independent judgment. Reflect on the questions such as, what was the author's problem? Yeah. What questions could anyone ask about the book? So you can use different formats. You can use a blog, you can use a video, or orally. But the best thing is to write, because writing engages your deeper side, your analytical part of the brain. Then after reading, do some light research about the things you don't understand. Yeah. We all read books and we can't say that whatever things that we read, we understand. There are things that we don't understand. So it's very, very, very important to do some research about the things that you don't understand. Yeah. Okay. Here we're going to talk about the common pitfalls to avoid while reviewing books. The first one is not taking notes actively while reviewing. How bad is this? You see, when you do this, when you don't take notes actively while reviewing, you lose clarity on your original insights and interpretations, which makes it harder to write a thoughtful and personal review later. It just becomes hard. The next point is to do with not adding your mind to the review. I also refer to this. When you don't add your mind, like your personal perspective to the book review, the review becomes a summary. It's not a perspective. It lacks originality. You're not added anything. And why would people read your thing? You're just regurgitating things from the book, the review. It lacks depth, and there's no uniqueness that would make a reader trust your voice. Then the next pitfall to avoid is not following standardized writing formats while reviewing. I also used to do this when I started. I just used to write the way I wanted. I tried to create formats for myself, but as a novice, stuff is really hard. So how dangerous is this? Yeah, you'd ask yourself, how dangerous is this if I'm reviewing a book? The thing is that when you do this, your ideas may appear disorganized or unprofessional. And this makes it hard for readers to follow your arguments or take your critiques seriously. There is no way people that, you see, people want to read good things. So if your things are not really polished up, people won't read your things. You might as well write for yourself. Yeah, then the next pitfall is not editing your reviews very well. I personally, when I was starting out this channel book reviewing, I didn't edit my reviews. Yeah. And it's not that I didn't want to, I just lacked the guidance and I was learning along the way. So I think it is a pitfall that we should avoid when trying good reviews, because errors and unclear phrasing can distract or confuse readers. And this weakens your credibility and impact of your insights. People stop taking you seriously. In the next point, under this subject of common pitfalls to avoid, is not giving a second party to proofread your reviews. The thing is, whenever you give someone a fresh eye on your work, there are certain things they will see that you did not see. You may overlook blind spots or biases, and this results in unnoticed errors or weak arguments. The people who just want to read review the books that they have read in 20-30 minutes and they post. Yeah. But if you ignore a structure and style, your review may feel flat or chaotic, making it harder to engage readers or even convey a message. In fact, it's just not organized. Yeah. You may not see it, but people that see it will just know that this guy did not add structure to his review. Then another pitfall associated with reviewing books is not knowing what type of book review to do. Yeah. When I was starting out, I didn't know that there are types of book reviews. Yeah? I didn't know that there were genres. Yeah. So when you don't know what type of book review to do, you risk writing without purpose or direction. And this leads to a review that feels unfocused, confusing, or mismatched with your audience's expectations. So know the type of book review you want to do. Then another pitfall associated with reviewing books is turning the review into a summary. This is similar to just copying and pasting things without applying your mind to it. So you will fail to offer personal analysis or personal insight. And ideally, a person like me will have no reason to read your review. Why would I? It just be a big waste of time. The next pitfall to avoid is being overly biased. Yeah, if you're being so critical and may be on the positive side or the negative side. You have to try to align your mind into a place of neutrality, because if you don't, your review might miss the tone, depth of focus that resonates with people. So people can easily dismiss your review because it's not relatable and it's less impactful. Okay. The next pitfall is overusing vague language, spoiling major twists. Now, when you spoil major twists, you ruin the reader's experience and trust. Okay, the next pitfall is focusing on only negatives or positives. When you do this, it's similar to the point I mentioned earlier. Your analysis can seem unbalanced or shallow, and this makes it hard for readers to trust your judgment or get a full picture of the book's value. Yeah. The next pitfall is neglecting author's intent. When you do this, you risk misinterpreting the book's message, because the author may be saying something else and you're also saying something else. This will lead you to feel disconnected from the author's vision, and you just mislead your readers. The next point is forgetting the reader. Now, this is very common. When you are writing, you ignore the reader and you feel like you're writing for yourself. When you do this, your review can become irrelevant and you just don't connect to people because you're just serving the needs of yourself, so instead of serving the needs of the people that you're writing for. Then the next pitfall is using academic and complex language. And if you think about it, this just scares the audience because you're using what like flabbergasted, yeah, very, very, very big words. Because people think that to write well you have to use complicated, but a good writing is a writing that is very simple. Yeah, simple in the way that even a child, yeah, nursery school or kindergarten can understand the idea that you're trying to put forward. The next common pitfall to avoid while reviewing books is skipping the theme message and analysis. Sometimes this happens unconsciously, like you're writing, but you don't know that you have skipped the theme message. It takes experience for your eye to get trained in this. And when you do this, unfortunately, your review may lack depth and insight because you'll be offering only surface level commentary that doesn't help readers understand the book's deeper meaning or significance. You're missing the theme. The next pitfall associated with reviewing books is rushing the review. People just want to review it and move on to the next thing. But when you rush the review, you are likely to overlook important details, or you can even fail to provide a thoughtful analysis because you're just doing bugu stuff. This results in a review that feels superficial, shallow, and doesn't fully capture the book's strengths and weaknesses. The next pitfall is not doing light research. I talked about this. And when you don't do light research, you might miss important context or background information, which can lead to inaccuracies or misunderstandings that weaken the credibility of your review. The next point under this is being inconsistent with the rating system. Now, I can say maybe this book was 5 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. But again, it doesn't make sense for me to say this book was 80% good, 60% bad, to use that kind of rating system the next time I'm reviewing. When I do that and I'm changing a rating system, readers may find my reviews unreliable or confusing. Because one time I'm using 80%, the next time I'm using 5 out of 10. So they won't understand how I assess my books or what each rating truly means or represents. So it is important to be consistent in whatever rating system you decide to use. Okay, this is a link to one of my book reviews. You can check it out. And on that blog, I have over 26 book reviews. But by the time I wrote those reviews, I was in a learning phase. So they're not as polished as I would want them to be right now. And hopefully when I get time, I'll revisit each one of them and try to polish them based on the knowledge that I have learned. But it's been very, very educative because when I read reviews that I wrote then and the reviews I write now, you can see a very, very, very big difference. It's over 10 years. Yeah. 2015, that's like 10 years. So this is a picture of the current book review writing. It's called Cultivating Stillness by Eva Wong. And what you're seeing here, this book is at round 1 line editing stage. And it's here to go more 6 rounds of editing. And you can imagine how beautiful it will look like after the 6th round. And even after the proofreading stage. Yeah. So book reviewing teaches you to be patient, and by the time you get the final product, wow, feel like eating your best food. If it is chicken, eat chicken. If it is pork, eat pork. So this is at round 1 line editing stage. So just imagine if it was at round 7. Yeah, so that is it. So these 13 free reading and writing tools that I created. These I designed them myself. So I want to give them to you free of charge. The first batch is about book reviewing. There are 4 book reviewing templates, and they include. I titled them. The first one is called non-fiction long-length book review template. Second one is called non-fiction medium-length book review template. The third one is called fiction medium-length book review template. And the last one is called short-length book review template. You can decide to say, let me use this. Yeah, so when you use templates, you see how applicable they are in different contexts. Then I also designed 5 book reviewing tools. And these are just like aids to help you when you're reviewing a book. They basically comprise of fallacies, figurative language, philosophical and ideological frameworks, and sentence rewriting and reordering checklists. Like these are things that help you, that you use while you're reviewing a book. Yeah, the first thing I talked about, the book reviewing templates, like this is a format, this is a structure you're going to follow. But these 5 book reviewing tools, these are aids, these are things that you would use. Yeah. Then I also designed line editing guidelines. When you're editing a document, like a book review, this is what you can follow. Earlier, I talked about my current book review being at round 1 line editing stage. And when you read this line editing guideline, you realize that I created 6 rounds of line editing, yeah, or 6 line editing rounds, yeah. So each round focuses on particular elements of language, usage of the English language. Then the next tool, it's to do with highlighting. I realized that sometimes as you're reading, if you don't want to go back to books that you've read, it's better for you to make sure that you're highlighting, like, all your note-taking process is effective. And highlighting is a very good note-taking strategy. But you see, when you're reading a book and you're just underlining things, don't ask yourself that sometimes when you return back to the thing that you underline, you would have forgotten why you underline the things. So this highlighting checklist has items that can help you easily remember why you highlighted certain things. Yeah. So for example, if I highlighted this, I would maybe say deep dive, or future exploration, or main point, or surprising, or inspiring. So that when I return to these highlighted texts, it's easy for me to remember why I did so, rather than again reading the entire passage, because it wastes out of time. In the beginning, you may feel like it's wasting out of time, but in the long run, you realize that you're saving out of time, because trust me, all of us keep getting back to the things that we highlight. So you don't want to get back to the things highlighted and help read the whole book. So there's a time a friend of mine requested me to pick a book for him. I picked the book, and okay, he had read it so many years ago, but in the book he had highlighted so many things. So I took pictures of the book and sent these pictures to him. But I think, because I only took pictures of the highlighted stuff, but I think the things I sent it makes sense to me, because he couldn't remember why he highlighted those things. So the only option was to read the book. Yeah. So can you imagine? He went back to read the book. But the beauty about highlighting is that even if I've highlighted things now and I follow a particular strategy, and I get back to these highlighted things 5, 6, 7, 10 years after, 10 years from now, trust me, I won't need to read that book, because the highlights will speak to specific things. Okay, I don't know how to phrase it, but the highlights will speak to particular meanings behind why I decided to highlight them, behind why I decided to highlight these texts in the first place. Yeah, so it may sound like it's wastage of time, but over the long run, it is saving a lot of time and no process. Then I've also designed an essay writing format guideline that I would like to share with you. Of course, I gathered ideas from different places and put them together. For example, I've been reading Jordan Peterson's essay writing guideline and other guidelines from the internet, ChatGPT. So I put all this together and created something that I think makes sense, and I would also like to share it with you. I also designed note-taking guidelines that increase comprehension and reduce on the time that you spend note-taking, because sometimes note-taking can take up a lot of time. But when you know the right way to take note, you realize that It is fast, it is effective, and you retain information better. So bonuses, as regards tools, I'm glad to share a guideline that speaks to the process of writing a book. Because sometimes it is hard when you embark on writing a book for the first time. But I've researched and put together a guideline that takes you step by step, takes you through it takes you step by step through what you need to do to write a book. Like start doing this, and this, because sometimes you don't know where to begin from. Then I'd like to share with you my best writing software, Scrivener, and I hope people don't hear me, but I have the cracked version, whereby you don't need to pay every month. But if you can pay every month, yeah, you can go ahead, download it, and pay every month. Then I've also written down a list containing book accessories that can ease your intellectual journey of reading books, gathering knowledge, and on this writing journey. Yeah. So what's coming next? The plan is to have a book reviewing challenge, which is starting in May, and it's run for 6 months. I would love it to happen once every year. Then we'll have a book reviewing webinar in November this year. That will be 6 months. And hopefully we shall have finished the book reviewing challenge. Then the next book reviewing conference is on 26 April 2026, which is next year. And I'm also writing a book. Sorry for the typing error. I misspelled writing, the word writing, and the sentence is not really, it's not making sense. My apologies for that. So the book is called African Road to Freedom, and the aim is to fuel the continent's reading culture. Yeah, hopefully I'll publish this book by the end of this year. And it's something that I wrote aiming to write for myself. Yeah. But along the way, I realized that there could be some people outside there who might need this information. So I decided that, you know what? Let me just publish this book and hopefully be of value. Hopefully the book will be of value to someone outside there. Yeah, just to take you back a little bit, something I've remembered. There's a slide here. Yeah, when it comes to the essay writing, I wanted to share with you that this is something that is new to me. I decided to embark on it this year in 2025. For over 10 years, from 2015 to 2024, I've been a day without journaling, like writing my daily experiences. And I have all these journals at home. And honestly speaking, if where I live is to catch fire, and I was allowed to pick out only one thing out of that house where I live, I would pick out my journals. I would leave my laptop, I would leave my academic documents, because I know I can always make money and go to the examination board and pay my academic documents. But the memories I wrote in those journals, are very, very dear things to me. And I embarked on them because I looked at it as a self-improvement process. I scheduled time every morning for 20 minutes. Even before work, I used to spare time to do the journal. And for the days I missed, I was very stubborn. I could spare time at work to compensate for the 20 minutes I missed in the morning, or journal twice the following day if I missed the previous day. And that's how stubborn I became the journaling. So it taught me to be consistent. It taught me to learn how to express myself with ease. Like my fluidity with expression stems from there. I wasn't really so good at expressing myself via writing, but it is the journaling that helped me, because when you're writing something and you don't care whether someone will read it, like just want things to flow, automatically that fluidity in your brain becomes stronger. So in 2024, when it was ending, I was like, no, I'm tired of journaling. For 10 years, I've just been doing the same thing. Yeah. It's not that it is not important, but I needed a bigger challenge. So I said, you know what? Let me embark on writing essays. Yeah. I wrote down so many. I created an essay writing topic list. I created a YouTube channel, and the plan was to write an essay about a particular topic, publish the essay on like Medium or Substack, on my blog, and also discuss the essay on my YouTube channel called Inspiring Perspectives 360. Yeah, so I want to tell you about that journey because I thought it could maybe inspire you to look at reading and writing as a long-term game. It's not something that you do 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It's a long-term game. Like it's supposed to be a lifestyle because it takes time to grow. You have to be patient, and it's interesting because um, the deeper you go with certain things, the more you fall in love with them. Then, yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you about that. Okay. Okay, so what do I want you to do after this conference? I want you to read about reading and writing strategies for like 3 days or a week and start with resources that I've given you before adventuring further, because I believe it can give you a spark, it can give you an inspiration, like it gives you a foundation, it gives you a step where to begin from. And I'm not saying whatever I wrote down in those guidelines is the ultimate base, but it's a stepping stone. Yeah. For me, I had no stepping stone, like I had no mate. I just went to internet and you can imagine how many things I read. Yeah. But for me, I believe this is a stepping stone. It's organized. It can push you to delve deeper. Yeah. I have a reading list I follow. For example, I have books I categorize according to civilization, African civilization, the Western civilization, and the aim is to become a well-learned person. Yeah. So there are great books, these two civilizations, categories and genres. So I have a list, I have a plan that I follow. That if I'm reading a classical book, The next book has to be maybe poetry. The next book has to be um, politics. The next book has to be autobiography. Like my list is well rounded. It's not biased towards only fiction, it's not biased towards only non-fiction. And this is something I talk more about in the book that I'm writing, but try to create a personal reading list. And after that, pick a book to read and use the reading and writing strategies you have learned. Just one book. Use the things that you've learned. After that, review the book using the things that you've learned about reviewing, edit and proofread it. Use the guidelines I've just given you. Create a blog on Substack, Medium, or WordPress. For the start, you can use free accounts that you get started early so you don't wait for the money. Or you can collaborate with already existing blogs like mine. But make sure that the blogs that you collaborate with, they so that you retain the ownership there, that they don't really own your hard-earned work. Then lastly, discuss your review in a video and post it on YouTube. And by opening up a Substack account or WordPress or Medium or YouTube, in a way you can monetize this thing. There's so many ways you can monetize things. You can monetize your reviews on these platforms. You just have to research. But the thing is, first start, open up with things and learn. So after that, you rinse and repeat. Like it's the process. Rinse and repeat. The more you rinse and repeat, you learn things along the way. You evolve and incorporate these in the previous strategies. And after doing that for like 3 books, I would really request you to identify one person and teach them that process. Just one person, because I believe this journey of book reviewing and maybe reading books is something that everyone should embark on. I myself, I try to teach my siblings, my ancestors, like, because some of them don't don't really see it interesting to do anything, but you try, you try. Teach one person every year. That's my goal every year, and it's why I'm going to be running these conferences every year. If I can only teach one person every year, I think it would be a very big success on my end. Then I'll end with this quote: "The work of a book reviewer is not mere critique; it is an act of intellectual stewardship. By interpreting, questioning, and eliminating the written word, the reviewer empowers others to think critically, feel deeply, and engage with literature as a force for personal and societal transformation." And that's beautiful. Okay, question and answer. What's your biggest struggle when you're reading a book? I'd like you to let me know. Do you think book reviewers are still materialistic to age? What are your thoughts about this? I believe no question is too small, so let's grow together as readers and reviewers. Just drop me your questions in the chat or raise your hand. I'm waiting. Okay, sounds like there's no one who's having a question. I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, that marks the end of the conference. Thank you very much for sparing time to attend. It's been a little bit long, but I'm happy that you've stuck with me. I don't want to send everything to you because you may not need everything. But if you need everything, please tell me you need everything. If you need particular tools, please tell me that you need this tool. So contact me via that number on WhatsApp or that email. I'll be able to reach out to you. Otherwise, thank you for reaching out to no Otherwise, thank you for attending this conference. See you next time.